Hello everyone. GM. Welcome to Web3 Magic Podcast. Here I talk with builders of some of the most interesting projects across Web3 space. Interesting by the use case, not by the price of a token. So let's warm up with music and let's jump into today's episode. Hi everyone, I'm here today with Bruno. I'm not going to pronounce his second name, or probably I should, because Bruno Skvorc is a name which is for some of us hard to pronounce. Not for me, because I'm originally Czech, so our names are pretty close to the Croatian ones. And Bruno has a long history of doing things in Web3. I was impressed when I saw the long GitHub page of different projects. I still am, actually. And currently he works on RMRK, which is a lot of different things, and I'm sure he will talk about it. But let's start with...
Hi, and thank you. I started originally as a web developer back in the early 2000s. And then after a few years of just doing web development, I started doing more and more data analytics, more and more optimizing my work and my habits and everything. And I data mined my happiness one day and realized that JavaScript was making me miserable. So I quit all of my JavaScript jobs, all of my web development contracts, and at the same time, just so happened to run into this thing called Ethereum. I was not impressed by Bitcoin up until then, so I never paid attention to anything crypto. I still am not impressed by Bitcoin and will probably never be. But Ethereum as the world computer and the decentralized database to help fight the tyranny of the United States empire, which was just ramping up, was something that I thought was really interesting. And so I decided to dive in. I spent a year just learning, and then I launched a website to teach people about it, basics of cryptocurrency, basics of Solidity development, smart contract writing, all of that sort of stuff. And then I was writing tutorials, publishing hundreds of tutorials on development or explainers and so on the reasonably popular SitePoint.com online magazine for developers that's been around since the 2000s. And this is actually where I learned a lot of my Flash development skills back in the day. There was a nice full circle where I became the editor there for the education channel. And
nice.
From there I got hired by an Ethereum 2.0 company effort to help work on the Nimbus project, which is the Ethereum 2.0 client for staking. And from there, I went to technical education in the Web3 Foundation, where I finally started RMRK as kind of like an infrastructure project for better and smarter NFTs, so that they finally evolve past the monkey pigs. There have been many other things in between. I've run an on and off ramp that I built in my spare time for fiat to crypto and back. I've done some projects in games and DAOs and things like that, but mainly these were the big efforts.
So it's a long journey, and we will come back to parts of it. But I'm wondering. So you started publishing tutorials about things you learned. Was it like a natural thing, or somebody prompted you? You always felt like you're a good educator, or you felt the need from people you were around with?
I always was good at translating knowledge, and technical education in this style is really nothing more than translating the knowledge from somebody's head into somebody else's head. You just have to be a good filter in between, a good translator, so that you remove the curse of knowledge from the person who is knowledgeable and digest it down into something that the person who is not knowledgeable can consume and remember. And this takes a lot of patience and skill, and it takes a lot of time to build it up, but it's something I've always enjoyed. It is the instant gratification of being able to write something that people can immediately put to use and see the results of that I really liked. So in many ways, it's like an ego game, much like, I don't know, with a stand-up comedian. He enjoys making people laugh, but because it feels good.
Right.
He's doing it because it feels good to him, and it felt good to me to help people understand a foreign concept and get that click about a certain technology or aspect or approach or the why of it all and the how to get to a certain point and result. And so this is why it was also a very good, nice way of earning money, because as a technical educator with a decent command of English, I could work for an external company while living in Croatia, which made life also much more comfortable than working here. So
Right. Right.
it was a natural evolution.
No, that makes sense. I'm asking because I feel it's really hard to be a good educator. Partly because on and off I always try. Outside of Web3, I do actually mentor founders or work in business development, and all the large deals are basically education game of the customer and whoever is providing something and finding a fit. And sometimes it's hard to translate that knowledge, which may seem obvious to you or some other people, into something which is understandable for the rest of the group, which needs to sign up on things. So I think the good educators are rare. So kudos to you, definitely. Okay, so we got pretty much to the point where you did work on Ethereum 2.0, then you jumped to Polkadot and Kusama work. And I think we can probably skip over this because it will kind of shine through when you tell us a little bit about the remark. Maybe you can start with the name, because the name is pretty cool. I like it. How did you come up with that?
So the project started while I was working at the Web3 Foundation, which is famously the force behind, well, one of the two forces, which are basically one force behind Polkadot and Kusama. And Kusama is like the canary network for the Polkadot network, where things are launched first and tested to their extreme to see if they can graduate to Polkadot. It's not a testnet; it's an incentivized testnet. It's a canary network, and there's this culture where Kusama is the people's chain and Polkadot is the VC's chain. At least
okay, haven't heard that one.
That's the unofficial stance of a lot of the community there. And I liked that aspect of it because Kusama was always Kusama is also named after after Yayoi Kusama, the artist who does Polkadot patterns in all her work. And so this is kind of like an homage to this. And so as this art chain, and as the NFT summer was ramping up, I saw it ramping up again. I figured like it would be a real shame if an art chain didn't have any kind of NFT presence, because at that point Kusama itself was just a relay chain, which means that it's used just to communicate, just to finalize the blocks of parachains, and no parachains, no chains connected to it existed yet. They were only on the roadmap still, so there was no way to program Kusama. It was a non-programmable chain. It still is the relay chain itself, but because it's a substrate chain, and substrate is the framework with which all chains in the Polkadot ecosystem are built, it's like the starting kit. It shared some functionality with all of them. And one of those functions is in the system module of every chain. So it's like a sub module of the chain. And the system submodule has a command called remark. And with remark, you can just put any message onto it. You can send any message into the chain. It doesn't change the state of the chain, but all the clients synchronizing the chain have to acknowledge it and store it in their database. It's much like event logs in Ethereum. And so when you send it in, it doesn't really affect anything, but you've written a message to the blockchain essentially. And so what I've figured out is that we can actually hijack this approach and reuse the old colored coins approach from Bitcoin from 2011, where they tried to use custom messages in Bitcoin to tokens, basically. Obviously, this didn't really take off in a big way, but here it was usable. And so what I did was I used these system remarks to graffiti the chain and essentially hack or simulate NFTs on Kusama itself. And I did this by just posting standard. I wrote a standard for reading these messages and a tool that can read all of these messages and come to a conclusion about the current state of all of these messages. So by graffitiing the chain, I kind of hacked NFTs onto Kusama itself, which was very fitting because Kusama was meant to be this hacky, hack-friendly, edgy chain that is friendly to these experiments. And it took off. It worked.
I like the expression graffiti the chain. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I used to explain it like with the analogy of shipping containers. If you have a big transport ship that ships containers over, that's your blockchain, and the containers are the blocks. With remarks, with these types of NFTs, these types of graffiti, you're not putting anything into the containers. You're not putting new content into the blocks. These are not transactions to be executed, but you are drawing graffiti on the side of the containers. And when they're unloaded, the public looking at them sees something special, something different. There's a language for how to interpret these graffiti. That's how it works.
Yeah. Impressive. And actually very cool. Yeah. So it's I can see that there is a big hacker mentality in the educator.
Yeah.
So what was the original plan with Remark was what? I think we talked about the fact that it was kind of a game focused initially.
Initially, it was just to add NFTs to Kusama.
Just to add.
Then I realized that NFTs were dumb in terms of not being able to do anything, and that most people were speculating on them. And so they were designed to do something more, and they could do something more, but it was not doable in an established ecosystem because there's a lot of incumbents that you have to fight. And so Kusama was the perfect breeding ground for innovation, where I could ship really quickly and not ask anybody for permission. And so this is how the next version of the standard came about, which allowed NFTs to own other NFTs, NFTs to equip other NFTs into certain predefined slots, NFTs to have multiple outputs at the same time, so that an ebook NFT could be an audio file and a PDF at the same time, and whichever context you load it in, that's what the render pulls out. So if you load it into Audible, it just pulls out the audio file. That's it.
Sure.
And so there are these aspects that I put together that I call NFT 2.0 Legos that you can just mix and match and come up with really innovative projects. And obviously, one of the most obvious use cases for this is gaming, because you have characters, avatars, inventory systems. All of that can now be done basically on chain, and you don't need special indexers, servers, or middlemen running your stuff. Additionally, forward compatibility was really important to me because I noticed that every single NFT collection that launches is a vampire attack on all others by default, which means that if it launches, it's going to be trying to get the audience of another project really quickly. And so it's always a zero-sum game where you're always trying to kind of take other people's audience and get them to be your audience, which is very unhealthy for the ecosystem at large. But if you make it a positive-sum game where the pie grows with every new collection that's launched, because you have, for example, equipables that can be equipped on this collection, but they can also be equipped on this collection, and they can also be equipped on this collection. If you have game items that work in this game, this game, this game, this game, and this game, and if you can make them compatible with every upcoming game that comes out from then, now you suddenly have this growing world that will never stop growing because everybody who builds in it is contributing to it. So this was the obvious use case, But then you have like this explosion of use cases where you can apply this to reputation, where you can have instead of a plutocratic governance in DAOs, you can have reputational meritocratic governance, where based on actions that people have performed, a certain type of reputation grows. So maybe you've voted on 10 treasury proposals, and now your treasury merit has grown to level 10, but your runtime merit is still level 0 because you've never voted on a runtime proposal. Next time there's a vote, your treasury merit will matter more if you're voting on a treasury proposal than on a runtime proposal because you'll lack experience in it. And so this stuff can be represented as non-transferable or soulbound 2.0 NFTs inside of other NFTs. So you can grow your profile over time and use that for governance. That's one use case. Another use case is just musicians coming together, composing a music song in one single track, each contributing a separate stem, like lead guitar, vocals, drums, bass, and so on. And then ultimately you get a final composition that can distribute royalties to everybody who contributed to it every time it's sold. And all of this is done in a decentralized way where you can equip these subslots.
Actually, I think I'm a member of a project who was trying to, or who still is trying to use your standards to do exactly that. And it's like when you mint the avatar, later on, every avatar should, come with some sort of the music instrument. And then, you can join forces with people who have other instruments which you want in your track, and you can do it together. I think it was called Creators. I'll research it a little bit and put it into show notes. But what you described is awesome, and we a little bit skipped over the path that you basically developed it on Kusama, and then you kind of pushed it into ERC standards, which are now available to everybody, I believe. And there is a long talk about it of yours from ECC, which I will put into show notes as well if anybody is interested. But the important piece is it's basically available to all EVM chains. Basically everywhere on Ethereum, you guys can use the NFTs, which can own other NFTs, logic, which Bruno just described. But I would probably ask, so from all the use cases you listed, from gaming to, soulbound tokens and reputation, is there any standout use case which you are the most excited about, like for yourself or team, whatever?
I'm torn
because there are many.
Yeah, I'm torn between gaming and reputation. I've always wanted on-chain games that can expand their economies and contribute to, kind of the basically global item economy. Like if I have an avatar in a space game and that avatar has a spacesuit and that spacesuit has a patch on it, I want that designer of that patch to get royalties when the entire avatar is sold. Even if that avatar is in a spaceship and that spaceship is sold, that patch should still give royalties to the owner. And we have actually solved this in RMRK with nested royalties, so that it trickles down all the way down to the maker of the patch, and this works. And you can actually sell nested NFTs, which really encourages artists to make stuff for others who are not their own project. It's much like the plugin architecture of, I don't know, some game engine or Unity or whatever, where you are developing something for somebody else's work, but you still get paid for it. And I think that's really important for a global item economy that's supposed to be ever growing. I also like the fact that this system allows you to have fully on-chain character progression systems, which allows you to really take an evolved or leveled up character avatar from one game to your wallet. And so even if that game disappears, even if it's not decentralized, you still have your experience with you. You have ownership of your experience. And another game may value that, may incorporate that into its new engine and stuff. So it's important, I think, to keep the time you've invested in a certain game or effort. I think it's important to own it so that you don't lose it if the project disappears, which, for example, is currently the problem with all Yuga products. If they disappear, everything they've built will disappear. And
it's actually
go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say it's actually, I think, experience of anybody who is still in this NFT space. I'm pretty sure everybody had some sort of, NFT collection which just disappeared from their wallet because somebody stopped paying for hosting or, other things happened, and it's not there. I mean, it's pointing somewhere, but there is no picture, there is nothing, no metadata. It's just disappeared.
Yeah, that's a big problem, especially when you have centralized teams behind projects that disappear and that have not made sure that they leave a legacy. In most cases in Web3, people are making sure that they make a quick buck, which does not really include long-term plans. And if you're not building with long-term plans in mind from the get-go, you will disappear over time, because most projects just launch a token goes down only over the years, and 3 years later, the project is usually gone. This can all be easily avoided if people just start building with decentralization in mind first. And so you don't put images on a central server, you put them on a decentralized protocol or something. You encourage interacting with contracts directly. You encourage people to fork your UI. You encourage people to, if that's what you want. Some people have business models that don't apply to decentralization at all and just use Web3 in a wrong way that it shouldn't be used for, but to just make money, which I guess is also, do what the tech allows you to do.
Yeah, I think, I would say it's probably like 70-30 from my experience in past 2 or 3 years. So when there is a bull run, so 70% of people, it's the easiest way to fundraise for whatever you want to do, whether it's buying a yacht or a house or, whatever, or just try to run a project. And decentralization is kind of just an annoying problem because it makes everything harder and typically slower. And those 30% of others, they try to do it, but I'm sure everybody who was ever present in any DAOs before the bear came and during this summer was shocked how quiet the Discords got. Yeah. I have like a DAO chat, and the last message is in January. So, like, is this DAO still alive? Oh yeah, we are here. We just don't have anything to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that happens. Okay, look, let's do a little bit of a future look, because we're already over 20 minutes. Unbelievable, but it's super interesting. So, what's up for RMRK? I know that you guys are working on, some. I could probably call them demo apps. I hope it's not insult. For what the tech behind the NFTs, which can own NFTs, can do. But I'm sure there is some bigger plan than to do just apps, and I assume you guys also want to monetize in some way the knowledge and skills you have. So
so it has been historically very difficult to, over the past 3 years, sell a technology that does everything, and this really is the end game of NFTs. It really does do everything. It solves every single problem that NFT issuers have had in the past or will have in the future, because it's forward compatible. You can extend it into the future. But it's very difficult to communicate that value. Yeah. And so we've decided, instead of, we do have our marketplace, singular.app, which collects commission on sales. So we try to earn money that way. But as you know, the bear market has driven away most users, so it's not exactly a very profitable venture. But that UI allows you to do everything that NFT 2.0 can do. So these modular NFTs that we've built, you can do everything on Singular. But to communicate the value better of these individual NFT 2.0 Legos, we have created these mini apps that really demonstrate one specific aspect of things. So like our Mintower app, it makes it really easy and a no-code UI to launch your collection in a lazy minting way, where your collectors just come, pay, and mint, and that's it. And all NFTs minted this way will be modular NFTs by default. They will be multi-asset, they will be nestable with other NFTs, and so on. There's emotes.app, which lets you emote on NFTs on chain. Just send emotes, that's it. However you want to implement this into your own apps is up to you. So we have provided this base layer, and if you want to add to your app, you can use this if you build a messaging protocol, where every email that you send to a person on chain is a message, is an NFT. You can actually emote on these messages. And so now you have an on-chain emoting system for your messaging protocol already built. Then we have other apps like wizard.rmrk.dev, which allows you to really pre-compose code blocks that allow you to launch these fully fledged collections with equipables and so on. So we're launching these mini apps, and they're all on the remark.app, rmrk.app. They're all listed in the menu. And we will be launching more and more so that people can get familiar with what this tech can do and really have easy ways of using it. Going forward, we do want to build out Skybridge, which is our fully on-chain game, where the entire world is an NFT, containing lands that are NFTs, containing houses that are NFTs, containing avatars that are NFTs, and so on, into infinite depth. But the community itself owns the world because the world itself is an NFT DAO. And so your partial ownership of it allows you to vote in its evolution. And also change its world, change its story, and everything else. So we want to demonstrate that on this concept. In general, we just want to see more and more of this tech out there. This is why we've also standardized it as ERCs. So with the EIP process, this has been going on for over a year now, but they're finally all finalized in final form, ready to use by anybody, open source. We have open source implementations of this, no token gating. You can just dive in and get going. All our apps support 5 EVM chains so far, and we will be adding more and more, but you don't need our support to launch on a chain of your choice. So this is also something that we support. We just want to build different use cases and show people what's possible to expand the entire universe.
I see. So, so your monetization path is not going through like helping people to actually implement it, but you want to focus on the game.
We have some of that. So some collections have gotten in touch with us and we have helped them launch for taking a cut of the initial sale or something like that. And we are open to those collaborations. Obviously, we need to approach such deals pragmatically because there's literally nobody buying right now. So, committing to 20% of a sale that is zero is not very pragmatic in our case. And it makes more sense to launch things that people will be using like crazy when the bull market starts. So it's a balancing act, but people can always get in touch and we will help. And we have a Telegram group where our developers are ready to help anybody with implementation and building their own stuff.
All right. Okay. Very cool. I will probably, point people to your pinned tweet because it has a list of those mini apps. Any let's sort of get to the wrap up, but any, standout external project which you know of, which you really like, which is getting ready to launch using your tech, which you would like to mention?
Yeah, there's two notable ones that I want to shout out that have been building with us for a while. One is Blossomland, which deals with one of my passions. This is reputation. So blossom.land is working on kind of like a work-related reputation for Web3 people, which means that somebody can vouch that you did something well and it builds up your profile and it turns it into your kind of work reputation. And this kind of attestation profile can then be used by other protocols to give you access to, I don't know, events or beta versions of their app or contract or whatever else, special mints and so on. So it's kind of like an on-chain vouching protocol. Right. The other one is Everloot. That's EVRL00T, which is a game that fully uses the modular NFTs that we've created for items, equipables, farming, fishing, everything else. So they are doing what Yuga was supposed to be doing in terms of building on an open standard designed to interoperate with other games and past projects in the ecosystem. So they're building an incredibly vibrant and expansive ecosystem that will grow with more builders in the same ecosystem. And this is really important. So they have a full team, they're working full-time on it, writing stories, writing quests and everything, and it's playable now. You can already use it. So I recommend people check that out.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, that sounds cool. Blossomland and Everloot. You'll find it in the show notes, guys. Okay. So, if the listeners want to connect with you, what's the best way to do it? And, can they be any help to you or your team?
Help? Yeah, just go and build on top of the stack. We are currently rewriting our docs to be more user-friendly, more developer-friendly, so that should improve dramatically. But even if you get stuck, head on into Telegram, tell us about it, try building something, and we will be there to help you out. Best way to get in touch with me is Twitter, probably. So just at Bitfalls. And I'll try to respond to anybody who has any questions about it.
All right. maybe last question, my curiosity. So Bitfalls, it's on Twitter. Where does Swader come in?
I've tried to get Swader, but there's a camper from 2010 who still has it.
Oh,
And so
I
I'm waiting for Musk's policy of dead accounts purging the handles to come into effect so I can grab it.
Okay, very cool. Thank you very much, Bruno. Thanks a lot. It was great chat. And that was it for today. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you want to connect with my guest, or if you are interested in some of the points that were discussed today, just check the show notes for links. And don't forget to subscribe for future episodes. Also, if you are compelled, please leave a review. It helps others to find the podcast, and you can surely share it with your friends to save them the trouble of discovery process. I definitely hope you would do that for me. One more thing, from January 2024, there is an option for the interested collectors to mint the episode or just the episode's art, which is always uniquely created by me for each guest and project. So go check the show notes to find out more. Until next time, keep it colorful and stay positive, friends. Ciao.